Welcome back to another episode of the Life's Playbook podcast. This is episode 6 of my show. It is of no secret that it is wild card weekend in the NFL playoffs, and it is the semifinals in the college football playoff world. Semifinals, in case you have forgotten, they start tonight with Notre Dame taking on Penn State at 7:30, and tomorrow night with Ohio State taking on Texas. Ohio State will be taking on Texas in the Cotton Bowl, and Notre Dame will be taking on Penn State in the Peach Bowl. With that being said, before I get started with my overall predictions on the NFL playoffs, I'll give you a quick little prediction on who I think is going to win tonight's game and who I think is going to win tomorrow's game in the college football playoffs semifinals. With that being said, let's get into it. The game never ends. The Life's Playbook podcast. Let's get into it. Starting really quickly with my predictions for the semifinals in the college football playoff world, I think Notre Dame is going to lose to Penn State. I have underestimated Penn State for the longest time in this playoffs, and they have proved me wrong every single time, except for the SMU game. Obviously, I predicted Penn State to beat SMU, but I have doubted Penn State for the longest time in the college football playoffs, and they've proved me wrong every single time. So, Penn State, I got you guys beating Notre Dame. It's going to be a close game. The defenses will show up for both teams. I think Drew Aller and Catron and Singleton all have phenomenal performances. I think Omari Evans has a great game as well. I think Tyler Warren, the best tight end in college football this season, has a great performance, and I think that defense is going to absolutely smother the Notre Dame offense. It's been a great Cinderella run for Notre Dame, but I don't think they're going to do it against this Penn State defense. I've doubted this Penn State defense too many times this playoff season. I've doubted Penn State too many times. You could make a case because I'm an Ohio State guy, but I'm throwing all biases out the window because Penn State has proven me wrong time and time again, and I'm coming out and I'm saying it. Penn State is going to get the job done against Notre Dame. That defense is legit. Moving on to the Ohio State-Texas game tomorrow. Obviously, I'm an Ohio State guy. I'm going with Ohio State. I have them locked in the national championship game. And I think they can win the national championship game. I think they move on to face Penn State. Now, I don't think it's going to necessarily be a blowout. If Texas doesn't play sloppy, if Texas doesn't get cocky like they did with Arizona State, I think they can make this a game. That defense is more than capable of shutting down the Ohio State offense. However, we cannot ignore the fact that Ohio State did blow out Tennessee, and they did blow out Oregon, the number one prior to that game undefeated team in the country. So it is of no secret that Ohio State also has the offense to do the exact same thing to Texas. Not saying that they're going to blow out Texas. Because, again, Texas is more than capable if they don't get sloppy and if they don't have a bad start, because we've seen time and time again with Ohio State that they can capitalize off of teams having slow, sloppy starts. So, Texas is more than capable of shutting down that Ohio State offense. But I don't think they will. I'm not saying Ohio State is going to blow out Texas. I think they can make it a game. But I think Ohio State, at the end of the day, they will be the last ones with the football, and they will win that game. That offense, there are too many weapons. If Cam Scatterbo gave the Texas defense a problem, and he's just one guy, how do you think Texas's defense is going to handle Emeka Ibuka, Jeremiah Smith, Travion Henderson, Quinshon Judkins, Carnell Tate? How do you think Texas is going to fare against all those weapons, along with Will Howard's physicality? And he can use his legs when time calls for it. I don't think it's going to look very good for Texas. Not saying they're going to get blown out, but I don't think it's going to be... If Texas gets off to a bad start, can't stress it enough, Ohio State will capitalize on Texas's sloppy mistakes. So I got Ohio State beating Texas and playing Penn State in a Big Ten championship. So that's my quick little predictions for tonight's game and tomorrow's game for the college football semifinals. Now it's time to get to the real talk of today's episode, the real cream of the crop for today's episode. It is wild card weekend in the NFL. It's time to give you guys my predictions on who I think is going to win this week, who I think is going to win the big one. So, with that being said, let's dive into Wild Card Weekend, starting with matchup by matchup. I'm going to go by matchup by matchup. I'm going to go by who I think has the best chance and who I think has the most experience and who I think stands the most chance against their opposing team. Let's get into it. Starting with January 30 game, Chargers taking on the Texans. It is no secret that the Texans have not looked good this year. They have fallen off greatly, and they are fortunate to be in the playoffs and to be in the division that they are. Can't stress that enough. It's been a point of emphasis on my show this entire football season. But their luck has run out. I think Harbaugh and Herbert collectively, single-handedly take down the Texans. I think the Texans, they have a lot of problems that they need to figure out on that offensive line. Defensively, I know they're going to show up. They have a competent defense to hang in with the Chargers offense, but I think Harbaugh comes up with a master game plan to beat the Texans, and I think the Chargers, they're just going to pound that football, and I think that run game is going to ultimately decide who wins that game. The Texans' run game has not looked strong because of that offensive line. The Chargers' run game is what they do, so give me the Chargers moving on to the divisional round to face a division rival in the Chiefs. Again, the Chiefs are the 1 seed, so they get the first round bye, and they would play the lowest seed remaining. That would be the Chargers. Because moving into next game, Ravens-Steelers at 8, same day. Give me the Ravens over the Steelers. I know the Steelers beat the Ravens first meeting in the regular season, and then the Ravens, they bounced back a couple weeks later, and they beat the Steelers. But this is the gosh darn playoffs we're talking about. Certain teams get active in the playoffs. Certain teams are built for the playoffs. And the Steelers, I think they're just, as far as Steelers fans are concerned, I think they're just glad that they made it to where they are. They're just glad they had another winning season. With that being said, I think the Ravens are going to blow out the Steelers. Give me the gosh darn Ravens over the Steelers. Steelers are going to get blown out. Lamar Jackson is going to have a MVP level type performance. Derrick Henry, I think, is going to get more involved. Zay Flowers will not be playing this game. He most likely will miss the playoffs, but I don't think that's going to matter, at least against the Steelers for right now. Give me the Ravens over the Steelers. Steelers, you guys are just fortunate you had another winning season. With that being said, last game for the AFC wildcard race, Bills-Broncos. Bo Nix, Offensive Rookie of the Year candidate in a lot of fans' eyes, my eyes included. Sean Payton has done a tremendous job coaching that young man up and making him the quarterback that he is today. Bo Nix, it is no secret that he's got weapons in Cortland Sutton, Marvin Mims. The run game is alive and well for the Broncos, and they have arguably a top 3 defense in the National Football League this season. That defense is no joke. But it's the Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen we're talking about. Josh freaking Allen we're talking about. I've said it many, many times. When the playoffs roll around, certain teams are built for the playoffs. The Broncos they ain't that team. They're not built for the playoffs. They're not built to handle Josh Allen and that electrifying offense. With that being said, I think this is going to be another blowout win for the Bills. The Bills will advance to play the Ravens. I think Josh Allen has a MVP caliber performance, and that's all it's going to take to beat the Broncos. Again, not discrediting the Broncos defense whatsoever. Arguably, they have the Defensive Player of the Year and Pat Surtain. They have arguably a top 3 defense in the National Football League. They will put up a fight, but it's Josh Allen. And I'm riding Bills Mafia. You can't deny that the Bills are built for a Super Bowl. They are built for the playoffs. So give me the Bills to surpass the Broncos and move on to the divisional round. Broncos, great season. Sean Payton, great coach. Bo Nix, great season. But it's just not enough to surpass the Bills. Give me the Bills to face the Ravens. Give me the Chargers to face the Chiefs in the divisional round. Moving on to the NFC wildcard race. The Lions are the number 1 seed. They get that bye. They are automatically in the divisional game. First game up that day. It's 8 o'clock. 4:30. First game up that day. It's Eagles, Packers. 4:30. I got the Eagles handling the Packers in a convincing fashion. I think Saquon Barkley has a historic performance. He did not break the single-season rushing record from Eric Dickerson, which is a discussion in and of itself. I was very surprised that they didn't at least play him long enough. That they didn't at least try to play him long enough against the Giants. They didn't give him a chance. They rested him, which is understandable. They need him for the playoffs, and I think he goes off in the playoffs because the Eagles understand that because they did not allow Saquon to get that record and they rested him, they understand that it's Super Bowl or bust. So with that being said, I think they use that momentum going into this game. They have the supporting cast to win a football game. I think Nick Sirianni is a competent enough coach to get them to where they need to be in this game. I think he keeps the Eagles ahead of schedule and he gets the job done with the supporting cast that he has against the Packers. I got the Eagles advancing over the Packers. Buccaneers, Commanders, this is a interesting game. Another rookie quarterback, no playoff experience. Dan Quinn is a great coach. Him and Jaden Daniels have turned that franchise around. But Baker Mayfield has had 4 playoff appearances. He's won 4 playoff appearances. I think Mike Evans has a great performance. Mike Evans has been around these type of situations many, many times. The experience is there for the Buccaneers, whereas the Commanders, it's not really there. Young quarterback, great season, but it's not going to be enough to beat the Buccaneers. Give me the Buccaneers over the Commanders to face the Eagles in the divisional round. And to cap off the NFC wildcard weekend race, Vikings, Rams, 8 o'clock game. The Rams are built for the playoffs. I know their record says otherwise, and this might not be the best year that the Rams have had, but the Rams, when they're in the playoffs, they can do wonders. We saw in 2021 they could do wonders, and we've seen in other years past when they're in the playoffs, just like the Bengals, they can make a deep run despite how their regular season has gone. So I think this is going to be an interesting game. Sam Darnold has never been in the playoffs before, at least as a starter. This is going to be his first playoff start in his career. He's got the weapons and he's got the coach to be able to have a successful game and to be able to beat the Rams. Do I think the Vikings are going to beat the Rams? No, I think the Rams could. Give me the Rams. I think the Rams, despite how the regular season for the Rams went, again, the Rams are built for the playoffs, and when they get in the playoffs, they can do wonders. They can make a deep run. So with that being said, I think the Rams take all the playoff experience that they have. Matt Stafford has a great game. Cooper Kupp has a good game. Puka Nacua has a good game. The defense is questionable for the Rams. I'm not going to deny that the defense is, this top all-star talent, because it hasn't been. But I think the Rams, again, they are built for the playoffs. When they have a shot at the playoffs, they can make a deep run. So I think the Rams, and Sean McVay, he is a mastermind of a coach. I don't think he's going to lose to Kevin O'Connell. Kevin O'Connell is a great coach. Don't get me wrong. He's coached up Sam Darnold well, and he is arguably a coach of the year. But Sean McVay is a mastermind. He's been in these type of situations. He's dealt with these type of seasons. So with that being said, I think the Rams beat the Vikings. It's not going to be a blowout. It's going to be a close game. But I think the Rams, they are built, again, I can't stress enough, they are built for the playoffs. When they're in the playoffs, they can do wonders. So with that being said, I got the Rams advancing to the divisional round. They would take on the Lions, seeing as they would be the lowest seed out of the bunch. So right now, I have the Chargers over the Texans, Ravens over the Steelers, and the Bills over the Broncos. I have the Rams over the Vikings in a close game. I have the Bucks over the Commanders. The ship is sailing. And I have the Eagles fly over the Packers. With that being said, the divisional matchups are set. I got the Chiefs over the Chargers in a convincing fashion. Now, I know the media and fans, myself included, we've looked at the Chiefs in the regular season, and they haven't been that impressive. You could say it's the devil's luck. You could say, it's the luck of the Irish. You could say it's the refs. And there have been some questionable calls throughout the regular season for the Chiefs. But it is no secret that when the Chiefs are in the playoffs, they are alive and they are well. They are a playoff caliber team. They are a Super Bowl caliber team. They've showed that the regular season doesn't quite matter for them. As long as they're in the playoffs, they are alive and well. They are the number one seed for a reason. They will overwhelm the Chargers offensively and defensively. I think they will handle the Chargers quite easily. Playoff Chiefs is a thing. I wouldn't go against the Chiefs, and neither should you. So I got the Chiefs over the Chargers in advancing conference championship game. Second divisional game, Ravens. I would have the Ravens and the Bills and the divisional game. This is a battle of two MVPs in my eyes. Josh Allen, I think this is his year to win the MVP. I understand his numbers aren't exactly in comparison to Lamar Jackson's numbers, but I think this is his year. I think this is the Bills' year. Josh Allen solidifies himself as the MVP, and he beats Lamar Jackson. I got the Bills over the Ravens in a high-scoring game. It's going to be a high-scoring game. The defenses for both teams can be rocky at times, so it's really going to come down to who has the ball last and whose defense is going to show up. Again, the defenses have been rocky, but whoever's defense shows up over the other and whoever has the ball last is going to win that game. And I think, again, Josh Allen's going to have an MVP caliber performance. Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, they're going to get involved as well. But I think with the absence of Zay Flowers and with how Josh Allen has looked in the regular season, and again, the Bills, just like the Ravens, are built for the playoffs. When the playoffs arrive, the Bills arrive. The Bills Mafia shows up. I think the Bills are going to handle the Ravens in a close game, and they will move on to the conference championship game to face their nemesis and Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. Moving on down to the NFC divisional round, I would have the Lions facing off against the Rams and the Bucs facing off against the Eagles. Bucs, it was a great season. Your ship sailed to the second round, but now that ship is sinking. You are not beating the Eagles. Again, the Eagles understand that it is either Super Bowl or bust, having squandered the opportunity to break the single-season rushing record. They understand now that it is Super Bowl or bust. With that being said, they will have all the motivation in the world. They have all the weapons in the world, and that defense is competent enough to win a playoff game for the Eagles. With that being said, Bucs, it was a great season, but that ship is now sinking against the Eagles. I think the Eagles manhandle the Buccaneers in convincing fashion to move on to the NFC Conference Championship game. Lions-Rams. Again, the Rams, when they're in the playoffs, that's a sneaky team. Matt Stafford has a lot of experience in the playoffs. Everybody on the Rams has a lot of experience in the playoffs. And there are a lot of Super Bowl winners on the Rams. And Sean McVay, again, is a mastermind of a head coach. Is he smart enough to out-coach Dan Campbell? In my opinion, yes. Dan Campbell has made some questionable decisions on fourth downs and whatnot and things like that. But just like the Rams have the pieces and are built for the playoffs, the Lions have also built a team for the playoffs. They also have an offense capable of winning a playoff game, and Jared Goff also has playoff experience. So this is going to be a very tough game. It's really going to come down to whose offense gets off to the hotter start. It's really going to come down to who has the ball last, and it's going to come down to a fourth down decision. And we know the Lions, they are a fourth down team. They will take you down to the wire, and they will run up points. The defense has dealt with injuries, so I don't expect the defense to be as dominant as you would expect them to be had they not had all those injuries. So it's going to come down to a fourth down decision. With that being said, it's tough to choose between these two teams because there is experience on both sides, and both teams, when they're in the playoffs, they can do a lot. they have the potential to make a run. With that being said, I'm going to go with the Lions. I'm going to go with the Lions for one reason. I'm going to go with the Lions over the Rams for one reason, and that is the Rams defense is not first. The first reason, two reasons actually. The first reason being the Rams defense is not as competent as the Lions defense. I think in a playoff scenario like this, I would trust the Lions defense a little more over the Rams defense. That's the first reason. The second reason is the Lions have more weapons to utilize, and they have more ways to beat you than the Rams. The Rams, it's a shootout or nothing. With the Lions, they have a good run game. They have good receivers. They're not dealing with, if they either need to be in a shootout or they're not winning this game. The Lions have pieces. They have more weapons to go forth and beat you. They can run up the numbers too, and that's going to be critical in a game like this where both defenses are not at their strongest. So that's going to be critical, and I think the Lions take advantage of this, and they run up the board in terms of points. So with that being said, I'm going to go with the Lions over the Rams, mainly off of those two reasons. They have a slightly more competent defense. I would trust the Lions defense over the Rams defense a little more, and they have more ways of beating you. They have more ways of beating a team. They have more weapons and more explosive weapons. So with that being said, I'm going with the Lions based off of those two reasons. So with that being said, the NFC Conference Championship game would be, in my opinion, the Lions and the Eagles. And in the AFC, in my opinion, the Chiefs over the Bills. Now, Josh Allen. This has been the hump that he has never been able to get over. Patrick Mahomes has been the nemesis he has not been able to beat in the postseason. Regular season, he's already done it. He's proven he can beat Patrick Mahomes. But it's that postseason. It's the postseason that really gets to Josh Allen when it comes to the Chiefs. Again, we know the Chiefs have not had the most convincing regular season, and you could say they've won a lot of their games by a string. But it's no secret that the Chiefs are built for a Super Bowl. The Bills are also built for a Super Bowl. This is going to be a very high-scoring game. Very high-scoring game. I know the Chiefs have a dominant defense, but Josh Allen is a dominant quarterback. He is a MVP quarterback. He is my MVP candidate. It's going to be very hard to choose between these two teams because we could just say that Patrick Mahomes has beaten Josh Allen many, many times prior in these exact same situations. I think the Bills have a chance here. I think the Bills have a chance of beating the Chiefs in the conference championship for the AFC and punching their ticket to a Super Bowl. I think they learned from the first meeting in the regular season. Against the Chiefs. Now, granted, the Chiefs will also learn from the first meeting in the regular season, but I think the Bills capitalize and improve. Sean McDermott, I think, will come up with a master strategy to handle that Chiefs defense, to get Josh Allen out of the pocket, scrambling more, running. Josh Allen's legs are going to be a huge factor in this game. His physicality is going to be a huge factor in this game. Will Keon Coleman step up? Will Amari Cooper step up? His weapons are going to have to step up in this game if they are going to beat the Chiefs in the conference championship. So, with that being said, I think the Bills do have a shot, and I think I will go with the Bills to beat the Chiefs here. I think the Bills have a chance at beating the Chiefs based off of the first meeting in the regular season against the Chiefs, and I think Josh Allen has a MVP level type of performance, and he's going to have one against the Chiefs if he's going to finally get over that hump, that playoff hump. So I got the Bills punching their ticket to the Super Bowl this year. Moving on down to the conference championship in the NFC, I have the Lions taking on the Eagles. This is going to be a defensive game. The Eagles' defense is very good. The Lions' defense is competent enough to hang in a game with a team like the Eagles. I think this game is going to come down to two things. Lions-Eagles. It's going to come down to two things. First thing is how well Saquon Barkley performs in this game. The second point of emphasis, how well each quarterback plays for each team. Jared Goff, he's been in these kind of situations before. He has the experience. Kenny Pickett, on the other hand, and that in the absence of Jalen Hurts, we don't know if he's going to be back in time for a conference championship game. If he is back in time, then I think I would strongly lean towards the Eagles winning this game. If he's not going to be back in time, or if he's not going to be in the playoffs this year, I think that's going to greatly affect the Eagles' offense. But those 2 points of emphasis, how well Saquon Barkley performs against the Lions' defensive line, and how well each quarterback performs, those are the 2 points of emphasis that we need to take into account and that are going to have to be taken into account to decide a winner of this game. This is going to be a tough game. It's going to be a defensive game. Both teams have a competent enough defense to win a conference championship, and both teams are good enough to win a conference championship. Me personally, I think I would lean a little more towards the Eagles. Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, Dallas Goedert, that offensive line is very good. They've been the reason Saquon Barkley has been very good. Saquon Barkley is an Offensive Player of the Year candidate in a lot of our eyes, and I think this game, this conference championship, solidifies that. With that being said, I have the Eagles over the Lions in a very close defensive, gritty game. The Lions have the pieces to win this game, but it's that defense and it's Saquon Barkley's performance that is ultimately going to decide the Eagles winning this game. And I think Saquon Barkley, he understands it. Having sat out the week against the Giants, he understands that it's Super Bowl or bust for the Eagles. So with that being said, I have the Eagles beating the Lions and punching their ticket to the Super Bowl, where they will face the Bills. So, in my opinion, I think the Bills and the Eagles will be the 2024 Super Bowl matchup. Who I think is going to win that game, I don't have a definite answer, but I would lean right now, since I'm on the Bills Mafia train, I would lean right now towards the Bills being your 2024 Super Bowl champions. I think Josh Allen, this is his year. I can't stress enough that this is Josh Allen's year. This is his year to prove everybody wrong, that he can win against Patrick Mahomes. He can beat Patrick Mahomes in not just the regular season, but the playoffs. This is his year. This is Bills Mafia. So with that being said, I think I would lean, as of right now, my answer would be the Bills would be the 2024 Super Bowl champions over the Eagles. The Eagles have had a great season. The Bills have had a great season. Lots of top-notch players on each side. Lots of quality wins from each side. But, again, I can't stress enough that this is Bills Mafia's year. I think this is the year that the Bills can get over the hump against the Chiefs. And I think that this performance by Josh Allen is what's ultimately going to decide the Bills' entire playoff race. Is this performance with Josh Allen and who steps up for the supporting cast and in that wide receiver cast, who steps up. That's ultimately going to decide how far the Bills run in the playoffs, and that's going to decide how the Bills, if the Bills win, if my predictions are true, if the Bills end up winning the Super Bowl, it's going to decide, those things are going to decide the Bills being your 2024 Super Bowl champions. So, with that said, I think the Bills will be the 2024 Super Bowl champions. Again, Eagles, great season. They understand that they have a lot of pressure being built up, having not gone after that single season rushing record, sitting Saquon Barkley. They understand that they need to make a deep run in the playoffs. They need to potentially make the Super Bowl and potentially win. And I think they are more than capable of doing all those things. But I think the Bills are twice as more capable of doing all those things. And I think this is the Bills' year. So, with that being said, Bills Mafia all the way. I'm riding Bills Mafia all the way to a Super Bowl dub. Bills, I think they can get the job done. I think they will get the job done. A lot of the teams in this year's playoffs have had great seasons, but there are also a lot of teams like the Chargers and the Broncos and the Commanders and the Packers that are dealing with inexperienced quarterbacks, inexperienced coaches in the playoffs, or they're dealing with injuries. A lot of great teams have had good seasons, but I don't think that they are the cream of the crop in this year's playoffs. But good seasons nonetheless. lots of candidates all around in terms of Coach of the Year, Offensive Rookie of the Year, MVPs, and whatnot. There will be a lot of good games in this year's playoffs, but I think ultimately the winner of the 2024 Super Bowl, the 2024 Super Bowl champions, will be the Buffalo Bills. So, with that being said, again, a reminder that the college football semifinals starts tonight with Notre Dame taking on Penn State. I have Penn State, not doubting them anymore. I am not doubting that defense anymore. I think Penn State gets the job done here against Notre Dame. That defense shows up. They get the job done, and they punch their ticket into a national championship. And James Franklin proves that this could potentially be his year. Not saying he's going to win it all, but he proves that he is competent enough to lead a team to a national championship. Ryan Day and the Buckeyes, they get the job done against Texas, and they punch their ticket to the national championship, and we could be looking at a Big Ten national championship, just like we could be looking at a Eagles-Bills Super Bowl. And in my opinion, I think we will be looking at an Eagles-Bills Super Bowl. But, again, college football semifinals start tonight. I will be watching both games. I will be watching the playoffs, obviously. And with that being said, I will catch you guys Sunday for episode 7. We'll recap all of what's happened thus far in the college football world, as well as recap the playoffs, the wild card weekend. So, with that being said, I'll catch you guys Sunday for episode 7. Till then, game never ends here at the Life's Playbook podcast. Peace out.